Okay, to let people in.
Yes. Another minute or so. Okay, we should get going. So my name is Bruce Noth. I'm a member of our coordinating team. Just want to welcome everyone to our October general meeting of Swing Left Peninsula. We're part of an immense, diverse, nationwide network of people who care about the future of our country and our planet. And so here at Swing Left Peninsula, we focus on how we can be effective in California, Nevada, and Arizona, and as you're going to hear this evening, in other important elections across the country. We're 3 weeks away from November elections in Ohio and Virginia. And in a couple minutes, we're going to hear from Matt Caffrey about an Ohio initiative to protect abortion access in their state's constitution. And right after that, we'll get insights into what's going on in the Virginia elections from Louisa Boyarsky. Later in the meeting, we're going to look out towards 2024 with information about a canvas that's going to be coming up in Modesto, California, as well as important Central Valley Matters fundraiser that focuses on CD22. So we're not going to have a general meeting in November. We will meet again in December, so please sign up for that if you haven't already. The link will be in the chat. In December, our speaker is going to be Hillary Barrett. She's the executive director of the Nevada Democratic Party, and she'll get us fired up about Nevada for 2024. And then at the formal end of this meeting, we'll stay on Zoom for a few minutes, just in case you have questions, comments, or want to chat for a minute or two. So Laura, I think you've got a video you would like to show us.
Yes. So we like to start with good news because we don't hear enough of it in the regular discourse that we follow. You have to go in search of it. So we like to do that. And there is a terrific video from 2.5 minutes long from the DNC. I wouldn't ordinarily show a video this long, but it's really great. And you can look for our pal Simon Rosenberg in it to keep you paying attention. Let's see if I can make this.
When it comes to special elections this year, Democrats are feeling pretty optimistic. 30 different special elections so far in 2023. When you look through this list, you see Democrats overperforming their baseline over and over and over again.
Because last night, Florida Democrats scored their biggest election victory in years in Jacksonville. Democrat Donna Deegan shocked the state with an upset win in her bid to become the first female mayor of Florida's most populous city.
Virginia State Senator is now in the history books. Jennifer McClellan has won a special election in Virginia's 4th District. This means she'll be the first black woman to represent Virginia in Congress.
Last night in New Hampshire, Democrat Hal Rafter defeated Republican James Gazowski 56-44. In a special election to fill a Republican-held seat. It was a Trump district until last night when the Democrat won by 12 points.
Supporters of abortion rights in Ohio are claiming a huge victory this morning after voters rejected a measure that would have made it harder to amend the state constitution.
Ohio, we did it! We did it!
It was a huge win for democracy last night in Wisconsin.
Wisconsin voters have made their voices heard.
This was a voter uprising. This was a state that has suffered through blow after blow after blow. But last night, voters cast their
the special elections that have happened over the past few years, and look at places like Wisconsin, the Supreme Court race there. You look at what happened in Ohio in terms of the ballot measure. Democrats are overperforming our partisan lean in those elections. And so I know polls are important for a lot of folks, but the most important poll is what happens at the ballot box. And so there's a lot of energy on the ground. I'm excited about it. And I think in the end of the day, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are going to do what they did in 2020. They're going to bring out a record number of people to support their agenda, which is based on delivering for the American people.
Okay, and I'm going to amend what Chairman Harrison said slightly to say that if we continue working really hard, that's what's going to lead to victories in 2024. So it's not just the charisma of President Biden and Vice President Harris, but it's us continuing to do the work. And with that, is Matt Caffrey here yet?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Hi, Laura.
Hi, and with that, I am going to turn it over to Matt Caffrey from our umbrella organization, Swing Left from Ohio, to talk about what's happening now in Ohio. Thanks, Matt.
Awesome. Thank you all. It's really great to be with you all tonight. I have to start by just saying thank you. As you all know, you are one of the strongest swing left groups in the country, from letter writing to phone making to canvassing to fundraising. I mean, across the board, you all do so much, and we are so grateful to all of the incredible work you all have done over now many years. And we really look to your leadership team as some of the most capable and experienced leaders in the country, and we're grateful to all of them. I just want to particularly shout Laura and Judith and so many of you all. Bruce, thank you all so much for the work that you all do. Okay, so I'm calling in tonight from Columbus, Ohio. That is not because I'm deployed for work. That is where I live, as some of you may know. And so I can share not only what Swing Left is seeing and hearing, but just also some of my own personal experience. That video, I needed it so badly this week. You have no idea. I'm so glad you all shared it, Laura. The win we had in August was remarkable and very encouraging. But if you're a Democrat in Ohio, you take nothing for granted. And I've got to tell you all that the campaign the Republicans and the pro-life movement and whatever the churches are running is being very effective. And I want to make sure I communicate this clearly. I am not saying the sky is falling. I am not saying we are going to lose. What I am saying is that we need to make sure that this race does not fly under the radar, that our voters do not remain confused or misled by the lies and the sort of the cheating, frankly, the anti-democratic stuff that the Republicans are doing. We do have some uphill elements to this fight. We have some wind at our back too, right? The win in August, the fact that a large majority of Ohioans are pro-choice. We have lots of reasons that we should feel hopeful, but we cannot take this race for granted. And, I think what Laura said about, it's not just that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are so great that we're going to win. I would say it's not just that this ballot initiative is so great that we're going to win. It is because of the work that we're going to do in this final stretch that we are going to win on November 7th, as long as we show up and do the work. And, we have been doing that. We just organized a big canvas with Representative Greg Lansman, who unfortunately had to back out last minute because of personal tragedy. But, we had over 40 people out knocking doors in Cincinnati over the weekend. Tonight we had 30, 40 people phone banking for Ohio on our national phone bank with Senator Sherrod Brown, which was wonderful. So the work is happening, and I know you all are contributing to it. I know that the Bay Area Coalition has been leading phone banks weekly, and I think starting last week, right? So we're very grateful for that. But yes, the Republican and the pro-life movement are doing two things that I think are two messaging points and a couple of other shady things. First, they are misleading people around the idea that this somehow allows abortion all the way through 9 months. The way that the ballot initiative is written, it actually protects abortion access for folks who, basically it says you can limit abortion access starting at the viability, but even after that, even if you banned abortion after viability, that ban cannot prevent someone whose life or health is in danger from getting an abortion. That's basically the amendment. They are painting that as if anyone, anytime can have an abortion all the way through 9 months. And in a state that says, pinkish purple as ours, that is unfortunately an effective piece of misinformation. And then the other big thing that they're pushing is this idea of parental consent, where they're saying that because the amendment talks about people, that people have a right to reproductive freedom, not women. I think it's individuals. Anyway, because it's a gender neutral term, they are interpreting that as girls, basically. People of any age can then have a right to this determination. Even the very right-wing Attorney General of the state of Ohio, who's very much anti-issue 1, said that is not actually the case, that the amendment would not undo parental consent. But that is the message that they're pushing, and it is gaining traction in the state. So those, yes, exactly. So those are the things we're up against. And remember that this is a state that pushed through very dishonest and inaccurate ballot language that references unborn children, that does not mention 4 of the 5 forms of reproductive freedom that are protected by the amendment. This is, they're not playing fair. This is also a state that recently passed one of the most stringent voter ID laws in the country that, for example, does not allow a student ID to count, but a passport does, because, well, poor students shouldn't be able to vote, but, their rich voters absolutely should be able to, right? So they're not playing fair, and that's why I think, our message all year has been democracy is on the ballot and reproductive freedom is on the ballot. That is true in Virginia. It was true in Wisconsin. It is true in Ohio as well. Even as we are voting just on reproductive freedom, the way that they are acting is so anti-democratic that we need to beat them to show them that their anti-democratic tendencies will not be tolerated by the voters. We did that in August, and we need to do that again in November. So lots of ways to take action. Let me just drop in the chat our link, but I know that you all have many of your own. But if you want to find more opportunities, and just final note, people here in Ohio are really focused on face-to-face interactions. All the groups I talk to, yes, they do letter writing and they have some folks who are phone banking, but every one of the leaders here locally is really, really focused on canvassing and high traffic canvassing, as they should be. But they are only able to do that because of people like you all. They're only able to do that because you all have done so much phone banking and letter writing that they really know that they can focus their efforts on the face-to-face. And I am, again, so grateful to you all for that. Hi, Laura. Happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
So my question is, I know that in August, there was late money raised in order to contact people who had ordered, tell me if I have this right, ordered ballots to return by mail, but hadn't actually returned them. What's the status of that now?
That's a good question. I have not been tracking that part of this campaign. I do remember that, though, that there was like a bit of a freak out that there were lots of people who had absentee ballots and hadn't returned them yet. Nobody's been raising that flag yet. So that may well happen again. And it's normal. Like the ballot chase calls are a normal part of the work that we do, but I haven't heard anyone raising concerns about that, this time around.
Okay.
Okay. I think we have time for one more question. If there's Judith.
Okay. So I know the Secretary of State changed the actual language of the amendment and put something else on the ballot. And I have been phone banking, and a couple of people told me that they were confused. Do you think that that is having a big effect on people, the change in the language?
Yeah, so this is crazy. You may have even seen this, Judith, because I know you're also active on the Ohio Dems Slack. But even some of our own volunteers were confused. They were saying, "Is this ballot language what's going to go into law? Is this going to be what is enacted, or is the amendment that we signed the petition for going to be enacted?" Like even our own volunteers, especially at first, were not sure. And just so you all know, the ballot language is totally irrelevant. It is on the ballot. Our voters all hopefully will learn that it's bullshit, frankly. The amendment is what matters, right? The amendment does not change. That is what is going to go into law. But yes, we are absolutely concerned that voters are being confused by the ballot language or just by the Republicans' messaging in general, which I think has broken through, unfortunately, in a way that I think we have not been loud enough on our side. So that yes, many of our voters, I think, remain confused. My hope is that we've got time. We can close that gap through voter contact. And my other hope is that even though the ballot language isn't great, if you're pro-choice and you walk into the ballot confused and you read the ballot language, if you'll still vote the right way, right? You'll know that something is happening. So now if you're on the fence, you may not vote the right way. I do think it's going to have some impact, but I still think we're a pro-choice enough state that as long as we do a good job turning out our voters and can educate as many of them as possible, we can win on November 7th.
Okay. Thank you, Matt. Really
Yes,
appreciate
thank you
your
all.
time and your coming in and be encouraging people to get on the phones.
All right,
Thank
be
you.
well, everybody. I'm going to hop off and put my kids to bed.
Yeah. Right.
Bye.
All right. So now it's my pleasure to introduce Louise Boyarsky. She's Associate Director of Georgetown University's Center for Public and Nonprofit Leadership. She's done research and leads workshops on public policy. And when I was looking at her bio, two topics caught my eye. One is advancing racial equity, and the other is the impact of social movements on electoral politics. And she's also done work with global warming prevention with Arctic indigenous people. She's here because she currently leads the Virginia Organizing Coalition, which is a network of grassroots groups in the state of Virginia. And she's going to bring us up to date on what's going on in Virginia and how we can help close that election out. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for that generous introduction, Bruce. And as you said, I lead the Virginia Grassroots Coalition. It's a coalition statewide in Virginia that started in April of 2017 with the goal of flipping as many of our House of Delegates seats that year blue. And we have the opportunity to do the same thing this year. So I wanted to give you an update on where we are with the election. So first off, similar to what Matt said, but we have elections every year here in Virginia. So the fact that you guys can come and help us on off years, it really, really matters. We have so many races this year, which I'll talk about. So it's just a little overwhelming for us to figure out how to wrap our heads and energy around all of them. So getting outside support is really, really critical. This year, we had redistricting, and so we are now running in 140 new Senate and House seats, so 40 seats in the Senate, 100 seats in the House. The good news is that Biden won 24 of the 40 Senate seats, and he won 60 of the 100 House seats. I wish we had those margins this year because we wouldn't need to be talking to you today. But the good news is we have opportunities to both hold the Senate blue and flip our state house. And really that's what we want to do, because we are very clear that if we manage to lose both the Senate and the House this year, the governor will start to run rampant over all of these policies that he's been hoping to push through, but he hasn't been able to since we've had a blue Senate. So we really, it's, one of them is abortion. You've heard about that a lot. It's a very good issue for Democrats in the state of Virginia. We know that abortion helps us win races. So that's something that we are really looking towards as a talking point in many of our races. There's also concerns that the Republicans would make it harder to vote, as well as ease our state gun laws. These are all things that the Democrats were able to push through when we had the trifecta for a couple of short years. And they are trying to, hold on to those gains that we've made legislatively until we can hopefully get a Democratic governor in the next election. The great news is that we have a fantastic person running for governor next year. And so we're really excited about that. So looking forward to getting us set to have a blue state house and Senate. There are a couple of things that we know. One is we need to at least have 51 seats in the House. Right now, 45 of them are pretty solid. So we're pretty sure we've got 45 definitely in the Democratic column. That means we need 6 more. Of course, we don't know exactly which 6 because everything changes at the last minute. Republicans have been very good this year in oppo research, and so they tend to hold on to things that have happened in legislators past and pull them out in the last week of the election at timing that makes it very hard for us to respond quickly. And so it means we have to work to flip more than 6 seats because we may not necessarily win the ones that we think have the best shot at the moment. In the Senate, we have 19 solid seats, so that's great. So we need at least 2 more. And that's, again, looking relatively good, but there's still some questions about exactly how that is going to play out as well. So what I wanted to do was share with you which are the state Senate and House seats that really could use support. But before I do that, I also want to note we also have local elections. So any work you're doing to help get Democrats out at the top of the ticket are helping our local elections too. So we are electing new people to the school board, to the county board. We're electing new Commonwealth attorneys, which are our district attorneys. We're electing new sheriffs, et cetera. So there are races for days if you really wanted to dive into them. But I think the easiest to really focus on is the State House and Senate in Virginia. So based on recent polling, the following 3 Senate races and 3 House races seem to be the ones that, one, are still polling in the margin of error. So they're really still toss-up races, and they've really struggled to get as much voter contact as we think they need to turn out the vote. So these are the ones that I would say are my top highlighted races for the next couple of weeks until the election. So in the Senate, it's Clint Jenkins, which is Senate District 17, Monty Mason, which is Senate District 24, and Joel Griffin, Senate District 27. The great news is Russet Perry is polling better than the margin of error now, which is why we are highlighting Joel Griffin, who also is polling better than he was previously. And we're just banking on the fact that a lot of people are going to be supporting Russet's campaign, and we're hoping that by putting some extra effort into Joel Griffin, either that pulls him over the edge or it helps, he overlaps with Josh Cole, which is a House race we need to win as well. So that's the Senate. In the House, the 3 races that need the most help right now are Kimberly Pope Adams, she's House District 82, Nadarius Clark, he's House District 84, and Karen Jenkins, who is House District 89. So those are the ones, again, that are polling in the margin of error and are behind in voter contact. So these would be great ones to help with phone banking or other modes of talking to voters. There are also additional races, obviously, since we need to at least flip 6 in the House and 2 in the Senate. And so these are the ones that we don't want to forget. So if these are ones that you've already decided are near and dear to your heart, please, by all means, continue to support these races, because these are ones that we also need to win. So the Senate seat is the Russet Perry seat, Senate District 31. And then the 5 House seats that also are really important are Josh Thomas seat, House District 21, Rob Bantz, House District 30, Josh Cole, House District 65, Travis Nemhard, House District 22, and Mike Fagans, House District 97. So that's where we are. I will put all of those in the chat so it's easy to remember which are those campaigns. And I will also put in the chat a link to some of the campaign events that we have on our website. So if you are not quite sure how to support these campaigns, the website that we have for the Virginia Grassroots Coalition tries to keep up to date on ways to get involved and to support get out the vote efforts. So in addition to that, I also wanted to note that we just got more information on our campaign finance reporting. So if you are thinking about donating to a campaign, I would check out to see how they're doing. I will say Democrats look, for the most part, like they're doing pretty well, but some of those tighter races you can see have spent a lot of money, and so they don't actually have a whole lot of money on hand. And so that is a concern, right? We want to make sure that they have money that they need to do whatever type of messaging they need to voters in the last couple of weeks. So that's a good place to look if you're wondering, like, how are they faring? How are they faring compared to their opponents? And then if you don't really want to do the work, 31st Street Swing Left has put together a slate of candidates that they believe are really the must wins for us to be able to hold the Senate and flip the House. And so you could just donate directly to that slate, and they are dividing up the donations that go there. One of the biggest things that we are starting to see in Virginia that is a statewide concern is our mail-in ballots. So we call them absentee ballots, even though you can do them whenever you would like, whether, just in case you don't want to go to the polls. The challenge this year is that for a long time, we had a witness signature, and we finally got the witness signature taken off the ballot. But the governor, in his infinite wisdom, decided, well, if that's going to leave, we have to make it harder. Otherwise, people will actually use this method of voting. So they put on extra requirements, like you need to put the last 4 digits of your social security number, you need to put your birth date, you need to sign it in a particular location, and people are not getting it right. And it's because the instructions that come with the absentee ballot are teeny tiny type, and it's super, super long, and nobody's sitting there and reading the whole thing. So basically the issue we have is ballot curing. We already know that there have been ballots that have been returned that have these problems. And this is going to be an issue starting now all the way through the election. So that is another great way to use your time on the phones, is to help us call voters and say, look, we want your vote to count, but there's a problem with the ballot. The biggest challenge also is that you don't usually know what the problem is. So you have to tell them there is a problem and then explain to them the steps that they can take to remedy the issue. So I'm going to put into the chat information about absentee ballot problems. The first link is just a link to our website that shows basically what the ballot looks like. And if you're talking to folks, it's a great thing that you could, reference for them if you wanted. But most importantly is the link to the Ballot Cure phone bank that, we're going to need help again, starting today all the way through Election Day, to be contacting voters. The other big issue around the Ballot Cure is that usually we do this via text message, but there have been new regulations that have been passed in Virginia that if you are told that people can opt out of text messaging, right? So a lot of people are tired of getting texts about voting, and so they've opted out, and now that means you can't use it as a method to inform them about their challenges with their mail-in ballot. So we're stuck with phone banking and canvassing. And if you guys can help with the phone banking piece, especially post-election, but even now, would be great as well. Last piece of data that I have is that, early voting is going fine. It's basically 50-50 Democrats, Republicans. So one thing to note is Democrats really don't have the edge in early voting anymore.
No.
Republicans have really amped that up. They've been really pushing it. And so the good news is it's 50-50, but it basically means we're even, right? So we got a lot of work to do. We've got to get the vote out. And so these last couple of weeks are really, really going to be critical. So that's what I've got for you, but happy to answer any questions.
Oh, great. Thank you, Louisa. That's very helpful. Do people have questions? Oh, yeah, Laura.
So I haven't clicked on it yet. When do the Ballot Cure Fund Banks start?
Oh, they've already started.
They've started already. Okay.
I think if you click on it, there's usually one at least each day, but the timing is weird. So you'll just have to see. They seem to be a little bit random at the moment, but they even have them, it looks like, through Election Day and beyond listed as options.
Okay. And just to be clear, it's known if someone's ballot has been placed in a provisional or problem status, and you can call them and say, we wanted to make sure to let you know your ballot has been placed in a problem status. Here's what you need to do to find out what's going on and fix it.
Correct. And they should give you training. It's through the Democratic Party of Virginia. And so this is part of their elections team that is worried about fraud and other things. And so yes, they should give you all of the information. However, if they don't, please let me know, because I will be happy to follow up. But some of our volunteers have already been doing it, and nobody has flagged any concerns so far.
And do you have any sense of the magnitude of what the list looks like now, just so we can give our volunteers some color?
Yeah, so the thing is, it's, it kind of rolls in each day, but
Sure.
it seems like each day there are at least 100 people who need to be called about ballot problems.
Okay.
So I would say you're probably, phone, you could sign on and see if it's needed, and then otherwise redirect to a phone bank, or vice versa. Start at a phone bank, and then if you're like, I'm tired of not talking to anyone. I think the nice thing about ballot curing is that, people do want their vote to count. And so if that's what you're leading with, they're probably more likely to stay on the phone.
Right.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Catherine White.
Yeah, hi there. I'm part of the coalition with Louisa, and I was just talking to the leader of in the Democratic caucus. And another issue is people haven't returned their ballots yet. So Louisa, I know we have a two-prong issue here with and even Republicans were caught talking about this as an election edge for them, by the way, is the ballot issue. But in the sense of people returning their ballots, is anything happening with that, or what does that look like? Because I know there's a lot of outstanding.
Yeah, so I've highlighted that for the Democratic Party, and also, mentioned it to campaigns. We're hoping that campaigns will start to incorporate that conversation piece into canvassing. I did it a couple weeks ago, because they are marking in minivan who has an absentee ballot and whether it's been returned or not. I think it's possible, if you are going to be joining a phone bank, it's worth asking. I actually haven't phone banked recently, so I'm not sure how much data they give you on the voter, but assuming that it's somehow linked to minivan data, they should be able to pull for you information on, does this person have an absentee ballot and has it been returned yet? So those are things that I find our grassroots groups are really helpful in, is sort of pushing campaigns to think one step further. If I'm going to talk to this person already, what should I be, how can I best use that time? I also found that it was really helpful when I was canvassing, because I could lead with, I know you have an absentee ballot. Can we talk about the new things that are required, so that you know exactly what you need to do, before you return it?
Yes.
So that's the big thing. And then the other is, if people are concerned, really the best thing to do is take your ballot with you, don't fill it out, return it to the registrar, and then vote early, right? Voting in person early just solves so many of the issues, because one, you can see the ballot there. There's not the issue with all this other extraneous information that needs to be collected. And then it's cast at that moment. Our concern is that, we've already seen that in some cases, the ballots are being held at post offices and not being, sent out in time. And so there's this, as soon as you put it in the mail and hope it shows up, we have a whole delay problem. And then if there's a problem with the ballot, we have that extra time. So really, encouraging people that you are talking to either vote early or vote on election day, avoiding the absentee ballot at this point.
And we can tell voters, they can just bring that in, not to actually open that. Is it the same thing where you had the inner envelope? As long as you didn't open it, you can sort of just go and return it?
I think as long as you haven't even returned it, you haven't even, just bring what they sent you in the mail and just hand it in. So
no, I think this is, and in the margins of some of these races for people in the room, this is true. This has been talked about as a strategy, as we know. And so we do have, this is going to be a really big piece of us doing well in Virginia, is making sure that every vote counts.
Great, thank you. Judith, did you have a question?
Well, I have many questions.
Yeah. Left here is with Louisa, so go ahead.
So with phone banking, you have we have phone banking as well, and our candidates we're calling for Danica Rome and for Kimberly Pope Adams. like Matt was saying, if we're making these phone calls for the candidates, does it help for the people on the ground that frees them up so they don't have to call, they can actually knock on doors? Because canvassing is historically much more effective than phone banking.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, you know, there are some people who are not going to knock on doors regardless. It's just how life is. Not everybody likes to canvass. But it definitely helps, because if you go to a campaign and say, oh, I want a phone bank, and they say, we don't need phone bankers, we have them from somewhere else, then they can help redirect you to do something that's, you know, as or more effective for that campaign. I would say if you're doing phone banking for Danica Rome, make sure to ask about that you can also mention the House race that is overlapping in that district, because there are 2 House races that are part of what we call that power pack. Well, 2 or 3 that are key races, including Travis Nemhard and Joshua Thomas. And so we want to make sure that if you are talking to Danica Rome voters, you're also mentioning the state House race.
It's good.
And then
those are called, we're partnering with sister districts, so those calls are through them. And do you think at this point, is it more important to be making the curing calls or the campaign calls?
You know, I would say both are just as evenly important. So I would say, you know, but I think some people get tired of campaign calls. So I think it's nice to have the cure as a backup option. I would say push campaign calls for now, because we need to get the voters out. But if you can sneak in some of the cure calls, they're really going to be, though, the biggest numbers of cure will happen right around the election. So if you want to do campaign calls now and then save election week and post-election for cure calls, that would make a lot of sense.
That's another question. How much time do we have after the election to make the calls?
That is a good question. I was going to actually check to see what they have set up. It's not a whole lot of time. And I never know if it changes or not. So let me see what we have. Based on the Mobilize event, they have cure calls set up through Monday, November 13th. So that's basically, it seems like a week, a little less than a week after the election. Yeah. So there's some time, but we just don't, the biggest challenge with the cure calls is you're asking them to do a whole nother level of work, right? We're not just calling and all they, you know, they then have to figure out where to go and vote, because if it's a post-election, then they have to go to the registrar's office. They don't get to go to their polling place. So that is the challenge, right? When you make it the bar a little higher that you have to jump over to make your vote count, sometimes it's harder. So giving them more, you know, heads up is good if we can.
Thank you. If we wanted to hold our own curing calls, contact the Democratic Party of Virginia, or?
I would say, I don't know if they're going to let folks do their own cure calls, because it's really technical and they need to be careful about making sure folks know exactly what the information is. That being said, yes, contact them and you can see. My guess is they would do something where there's some kind of partnership, just so that they'd make sure that you had all the right information.
Of course. We want the right information. Yes.
Exactly. It's sadly way more technical than we want it to be, but there are like 4 areas on the return ballot that people are having trouble with. And because of the fact that we don't always know what they are, there's just a variety of different approaches to those conversations.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much. This really allows us to plan and get our volunteers mentally ready to, like, it's not over on election day, right? We're going to just keep right on going. And that's all super helpful for us. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Louisa. And thank you, Alvina, too, for arranging to have Louisa join us this evening. It's been very helpful.
Well, it's great to meet all of you. And thank you again for your support in Virginia. As you know, and I mentioned, we have so many races, so it's really, really helpful to have the additional support, because that also allows us to go and do some canvassing and phone banking in slightly bigger reach districts, right? Because there are opportunities for us to start building support in Democratic and less Democratic areas, but that will help us for the campaigns next year. So knowing that we've got folks coming in from other states to do some of this phone banking allows us to do some phone banking for some further reach districts. So we really appreciate you.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thanks, Louisa. So Swing Left Peninsula is known for its letter program. I'm happy to report that most of the political letters for Virginia have been adopted, but there are still some left, and the mail date is not until October 31st. So we hope you all will take a slug from our letter delivery, our letter pickup program all over the peninsula. You can order from our website. We'll put the address in the chat. There are no more in-person letter parties set up, but don't let that deter you. Come and pick up some letters and let's finish off all the political letters to Virginia. There are also, I think we've already put have we already put the phone banks in the chat, Bruce?
Yeah, I was just going to say I was just briefly, because we had talked, I said I'd pitch phone banks. And I was thinking about, okay, how on earth am I going to pitch phone banks? And for some reason, it reminded me of having a root canal, which I did. I had one about a year ago, which honestly, I was not looking forward to it. I was dreading it. And the oral surgeon was great. I mean, he was amazing. And when he finished the root canal, I was thinking, hey, do another one. And I used to put phone banks kind of in the same category as root canals. And now I've done a few, and it's like, well, that wasn't so bad. I can do another one. And honestly, phone banking is a lot better for the country than me getting a root canal. So I think that's true for all of us. So yeah, we have phone banks on Wednesdays. That link's in the chat, and it's a very welcoming crew. I'm part of it. We're calling into Virginia, Ohio, and California now on Wednesdays at 2:30 Pacific time. The more people that join us, the more calls we can make. And this is, as you've heard, a really important time to be making them. And we train and we do whatever we need to do to help you get started. And there's also daily sister district phone banks as well into Virginia, and that link as well is in the chat. So sign up, encourage your friends to sign up, and I'll be on the calls tomorrow at Wednesday. So I'll be on the phone bank tomorrow at Wednesday. So hope to see you there and a few of your friends. Thank you.
So in 2023, Swing Left Peninsula has been, dabbling, working all over the country. Our bread and butter, however, is working in the Central Valley, Arizona, and Nevada. And as we alluded to earlier, we don't stop at Election Day in November. We just keep right on going. And we have here today Cecilia Minalga, who's a leader at the Bay Area Coalition, of which Swing Left Peninsula is a part, and they set up phone banks and speaker events and canvases and things, and that saves all the members of the coalition from doing it one by one by one. So it's an incredibly valuable service. Cecilia is also the co-chair of the California Democratic Party Organizing Standing Committee, and we asked her to come and describe a canvass that's happening, that she's leading in the Central Valley on October 28th. She just led one on October 7th, and she can just, if you have any questions about canvassing, you've thought about doing it, you didn't know what it was about, she's here to answer them. So Cecilia, if you could give us the overview. Thank you for coming.
Oh, thank you, Laura. And I was certainly, there's so much work to be done in Virginia and Ohio, and I don't want to take away from there, but especially this week, remembering that the path to winning the House majority goes through California, and God help us with what's going on in the House right now. So what we're doing, we have our next canvass is going to be on Saturday, October 28th, which is just a little over a week from now. And we're going to Modesto into Congressional District 13. So from the Bay Area, from the East Bay, it's about an hour and a change drive. From the peninsula, it might be a little bit longer, maybe an hour and a half, I think. So it's much closer. And the weather is good now too. So it was a little warm on the 7th, but I was looking at the weather forecast. It looks like it'll be very nice. So we're going to be meeting in Modesto at 10 o'clock. So that means you can leave at a reasonable hour in the morning. And we're going to meet at the Union Hall in Modesto, where you'll get the event will be where you arrive. You'll get we have like coffee and stuff, little snacks, and you can take care of all the bio break things. We'll get you your turf and supplies. Have a quick training. This is really a good opportunity for beginners if you have never done this before and you want to try it out, or for people who are veterans and have done a lot of canvassing, or perhaps you just haven't done it in a while. The reason these are really fun canvases, especially for beginners, is that the universe that we're knocking on is, and you've probably heard this term bandied about, but we're really building the base of solid Democrats who are going to vote Democratic. So that's these high propensity Democrats in CD13. Plus, within your turfs, you will be getting any likely Democrats who were recently registered since 2020. So they haven't voted yet for anything probably, but they did register Democrat. So now is the time for us to reach out and say, we're the Democratic Party. How can we help you? And then if there are unregistered people in the household as well. This CD13 is really important. We lost by just a little over 500 votes in 2022. So if we actually, and that was without very much canvassing or work at all into CD13. So if we do the work there, I think this is definitely a district. We are going to be going further south into CD13 as well as into CD22, but those canvassing events won't start until early 2024. So I'm happy to answer any questions about canvassing. Hopefully I see the link went into the chat. It's a lot of fun. You arrive at 10. Whatever amount of time you're willing to give is great, but people start coming back around 2:30 or 3 o'clock, where we wrap up and have some conversations and go from there. So happy to answer any questions. And I know Judith was there with me on October 7th, and I think had a great time.
Do you have a question, Judith?
Not a question, but I did want to comment if you're kind of thinking, well, should I go or not go? We are talking mostly to Democrats, and I just had a hoot of a conversation with a guy who was working on in the front of his house, and he had like 4 other family members working there, and he hated Republicans. He really hated Trump. And we talked for a long time. He was so much fun. And his son was a school teacher and really helped guide him. He was going to vote. He had a store in town, and he was going to let people know. They're just really satisfying conversations. So I do urge you to do it. And occasionally you actually meet somebody who kind of on the fence about things, and it's really rewarding actually when you're able to talk to someone who maybe wasn't going to vote or didn't know who to support, when you're able to bring the truth to them and help them change their mind and become both a voter and a Democratic voter.
And I want to just add on, that is so true, Judith, all of everything that you said. The other thing, it's even also very rewarding, is that since we're talking to these Democrats about issues, and hopefully if you go on the 28th, you'll actually meet the local city council people there in Modesto. But we're identifying issues that they might have. And giving their contact information to either the city council or some other nonprofit there who can actually help them. An example is a man that one of the canvassers talked to. He's not a citizen. His wife just passed away, and he has 4 grown children. and he's not a citizen, and his children are terrified that he's going to be deported. We have someone working on it right now to move him through the process at the federal level. Without us knocking on that door, that would not happen. And this all goes to the thought that we don't want to be Democrats who are just showing up 2 weeks before the election. We want to be Democrats who are actually helping people have a better life. And that's really, it's people, I think I also heard from some of the canvassers that, wow, thank you for asking and stopping by. People don't always stop by before the election. Thank you. So, other
Okay.
questions?
Cecilia, I'm going to say thank you.
Okay.
We're going to now talk about fundraising in the Central Valley, but I really appreciate you coming and giving some color to how this works, because I've actually, for various reasons, never done it. So I appreciate getting more detail about it. Thank you.
Now's your time, Laura. See you on the 28th.
Exactly. Right.
Right.
Thank you.
And then
Shannon, I don't see Shannon. Is Shannon on?
It looked like Shannon was in Ashland, Oregon.
Okay, well, so she was going to talk about the Central Valley Matters fundraiser that's coming up, and I will happily talk about that for a moment or two. So December 6th, Central Valley Matters, which is really a kind of a consortium of groups or representative groups around the peninsula, is raising money for 4 grassroots organizations focused on Congressional District 22. And in the goal for the fundraiser, raise $100,000, which historically has been kind of the levels that Central Valley Matters has raised in these fundraisers. And I've learned a lot by going to the last few meetings. The focus this time, there's going to be a speaker who's going to talk about water. And water is a big issue in the Central Valley, not just in terms of growing crops, but access to safe water. It's really an issue that impacts the farm workers, the people who live in the valley. It's very similar to the air quality and those other things. And what I'm coming to understand is that the grassroots organizations, and including the 4 that we're raising money for, are in the valley year round. They work with, they talk to the residents there. They talk to them about, not just talk to them, but they help them solve issues with, say, healthcare, with access to clean water. They understand what it takes to improve air quality, and they educate they educate basically the laborers about how important it is to vote and how important it is to vote at the local level, because the people at the local level make decisions that affect their lives, and they have, obviously issues that are really important to them that I take maybe a little more for granted, like healthcare, and then they also are very concerned about things that I'm concerned about as well, which is the climate and the impact of the environment on my life and on our lives. And so when people vote at the local level, they can change their lives in terms of education, in terms of healthcare, other local issues, and they can then also cast ballots for Democrats at the national level, and that has a big impact, of course, on the direction of the country and the longer term issues that affect them. And so that's why it's so important to fund these grassroots organizations, is because they're there year round. They literally can get into people's living rooms, which we can't, because the people know them. They're trusted messengers. And Central Valley Matters is raising money for these 4 organizations. That fundraiser is on December 6th. And just occurred to me, I don't think I have a link to put in the chat, but I'll find one and slip it in. So
I put it in.
Oh, thank you. Anyway, there'll be, of course, email and such things about it. So please sign up for that fundraiser. Right now, we're looking for the early money to get halfway to the goal of $100,000, and then plan on attending the event on the 6th. Any questions, comments?
Thanks, Bruce.
You're welcome.
And we'll open it up generally if anyone has anything they want to ask about or say. the last couple minutes here. Barbara.
So, thank you. This was a good program. I just got an email from a friend of mine about Jim Jordan and phone numbers to call and leave messages on Republicans. The people who are in the House of Representatives who are Republicans to say, please vote against Jim Jordan. So I just wanted to throw that in. I have the list and I wanted to mention that it's time sensitive. I did it in 15 minutes today. So.
You mean you called the Republicans who are in like Biden districts, probably most of them? 20?
Exactly. There's a list that gives you the categories. I think there are probably 13 people on the list, but they're all voicemail, so you can go fast because nobody's there, but you can leave your message. So I just wanted to mention that because it's something you can do right away. It doesn't have to do with Virginia and Ohio, which are extremely important, and the Central Valley, but this is a timely, quick thing you can do to make your voice heard.
Thank you. Anyone else? The floor is open.
Questions, comments? About almost anything, including my root canal.
How is it?
Great. Really, I called the guy the Zen dentist because he was so calming.
So if anybody wants a list, let me know. Put your email in chat.
Okay. I think we'll call it a wrap. Thank you, everyone. And all of the many links and so forth will be going out as a follow-up email, so you don't need to have copied them all down. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye. Let's stop recording.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah.